Don't mind me, just put my gloves on. Gloves in May in the UK? Are you serious? Yeah, afraid I am. And all because of a comment that was left on one of my videos suggesting I make gloves from a small piece of fabric I had left over from a dress that I made. And it sparked a bit of curiosity, like how difficult are gloves to make? Did I even have enough fabric to cut said gloves? And can you make gloves from a non-stretchy tweed? My name's Janine, you're watching Channel Oobop, and in this video I will indeed be telling you how I made these gloves from this pattern, and I sewed them mostly by hand. Luckily, I had this pattern already. It's Vogue V8311. It looks like there's 9 options. There's actually only 8 because this one and this one are the same. They're just made out of different fabrics. I think I had this pattern for when I was going to make a prom dress for somebody, and I was going to suggest that they had gloves to match this sleeveless dress. I'm kind of glad I didn't, in a way, because I would have needed the practice, that's for sure. So I went for view H, which is this purple one down here. It's got a nice little flounce on the back of the glove and a bit of elastic at the front wrist, but other than that, just a basic pair of short gloves. So what's the first thing you do when you're going to make something for the first time? You do a little YouTube search, of course, which is exactly what I did to try and get some reference and tips. There are next to none, I'm telling you. There's lots of DIY tutorials for that method of tracing around your hand and making your own pattern, but I wanted to do it properly with the gussets, you know, like the ones you get in the shops. But for a pattern that was made 20 odd years ago, don't you think that's a bit weird that there's no evidence, or not a lot of evidence online of people making these? It's a bit disconcerting. Does that mean it was really difficult? So the fabric suggestions for these gloves are stretch micro suede, velour jersey, stretch lace, and stretch faux leather. I kind of fell at the first hurdle because I was about to use tweed, which has no stretch whatsoever, unless you cut them on the bias. Now, one of the suggestions was to include a stretch interfacing. Luckily, I had some of that, and it was a very good idea for 2 very good reasons. 1, because it stopped the fabric fraying, and 2, because it allowed me to then mark with a friction pen the markings on the back of the interfacing, because I wouldn't have been able to mark it on the tweed. And because I was sewing these by hand, finger pieces, the hole where the thumb goes and the little thumb bit, they're being handled a lot as you are hand sewing them. And so those edges are going to get agitated. So rather than cut the fusible separately, I fused the whole piece of fabric and then cut out the pieces so they were exactly to the edge of my fabric, really preventing any fraying from happening. If you don't use fusible, which you don't have to, I would strongly suggest some fray check if you have fraying fabric, not least of all because these seams, this is the reason I hand sewed them. These seams are a mere 3 millimeters, I tell you. 3 millimeters. How was I going to get a 3 millimeter seam under my sewing machine and keep it even and keep those curves neat? No, the only way for me to handle this, you might be able to do it, but the only way for me to handle this was to sew it by hand, and then I knew I had an element of control. And while we're on the subject of those 3 millimeter seams, another thing to note is, although you're doing most of the markings with a friction pen, with chalk, whatever you're using, there's a couple of instances of notches to be cut. Now, because I work with dressmaking patterns and I work primarily with a 15 millimeter seam allowance, I think nothing of snipping in where those notches are. Just a little snip at the side. I don't cut those triangles out, I snip in. I don't know if that's good or bad practice. It's just my practice. I did it without thinking on one of the notches, and as soon as I did it, I knew that wasn't a good idea, because even though it was a 2 millimeter snip, that allowed me 1 millimeter away from my seam line. So yeah, I'm a bit worried about that weak point now on the side, but I've used backstitch and gone over it 3 or 4 times, and I've used blanket stitch to finish the edges. But yes, make sure you cut the actual triangle notch that sticks out. So once all your pieces are fused and cut as accurately as you can, this was a slow process, I'm telling you. I used super sharp scissors, and even more importantly, the hole that has to be cut for the thumb to be inset, that was a good reason for having that fusible on, so I could be as accurate as possible. I did try with some scissors that weren't quite so sharp. You need some super sharp little scissors to get right into that circle and cut it as accurately as you can. And then you can begin to sew. The first thing to sew is to reinforce the base of the fingers, because when you cut along those finger lines, it just helps it not to stretch, not to tear too far. And then you can sew your thumb. It's quite satisfying that that's the first piece you sew together, and actually feels quite good. I was enjoying it at this stage. It was really good fun. The instructions then say to turn it in, this is the thumb piece, to turn it out the right way and then to press. How do you press that little thumb shape? I mean, it's that big, unless you've got special glove pressing things that you can push through, and I don't know how you press. I didn't press. Now, in a lot of places throughout these instructions, it says to pin. Quite frankly, it's more like put a pin in, maybe where the notches line up, and then just ease it around. Mine was cut on the bias, so it had that element of stretch, but if you go with the suggested fabrics, you're going to ease it around. It's going to be just fine. You could, just make sure that it fits as you're going. And once that thumb bit is sewn in the hole, you really feel like you're getting somewhere. It's great. And then the next bit's pretty simple too. It's for the under, I get very confused with back and front, but this is the front of the glove. There's a bit of elastic that goes at the wrist. Now it calls for a 5 centimetre piece, and I did use the sewing machine for that because I think it's easier to just do a back tack at the beginning, stretch the elastic between the two markings, and then it sort of gathers up. To be fair, let me show you, it hasn't really made the world of difference. If I was doing this again, there's the elastic inside. If I was doing this again, I might be inclined to use a 4 centimetre piece of elastic. I guess it depends on how stretchy your elastic is. Maybe mine's lost a bit of stretch, or it's not particularly good quality, but I do feel like that's almost not worth being there. The next stage is to gather up the flounce that sits on the back of the glove. It's a nice little detail. I really like it. And this is what that back section looks like. I've never come across this before. The actual gathering line is a wavy line. I can only think that it just helps to give it a bit more volume, but I just did the usual. I did 2 rows of gathering outside of where the seam allowance was, pulled it up, and I used the sewing machine for that too. Then I sewed the flounce onto the back of the glove on the sewing machine also, just because I felt like there was no reason to sew that on by hand. Now I'm going to fess up here and say that I am not the best at following instructions on a sewing pattern. Call it lazy, call it ADHD, call it whatever you like. I just can't. And I get frustrated with words, which is a bit ironic because I work for children's books and I have to read manuscripts every single day, pretty much. But give me a picture, give me a diagram, give me a video, give me any visual, and I am on it. So when it came to the gusset bits, which are these fiddly little things, bearing in mind these include 3mm seam allowances, I kind of messed up with the first one without even realizing. Because the next stage was to reinforce the base of the fingers on the back of the glove, as I had done the front of the glove, I assumed that the diagram for inserting the gussets was the back. I just assumed it was. And what I should have done was look on the pattern piece to see how these labelled D, E and F gussets lined up with the D, E and F points on the glove pieces. I just didn't. I mean, the picture looked okay and it kind of worked okay, but it wasn't until I did so that was for the left glove. It wasn't until I came to sew the right glove that I thought to check. And yes, I had done it wrong. It does feel slightly better the way I've done it, but I definitely did it wrong the first time round. So this video is very much a do as I say and not as I do. It's a small project. It's an easy, manageable project, but you really do have to pay attention to the instructions and to the points of attachment, or else it's not going to work properly. Another thing I'll say about inserting the gusset is that the pattern calls for pinning them in position. Now, I would argue again that that's entirely unnecessary. You just need one pin in the little dart area that you've attached that sits in between the fingers, and then you can sew from that point upwards, and then sew from that point upwards. You can ease it in up to the points where they should meet, where there's marking on the patterns. And the reason I say that is that if you do pin them all on at the same time with lots of sharp pins and you're hand sewing this, there will be blood. And there was, and it's not comfortable. It's really not a comfortable sew. This was supposed to be a pleasurable hand sewing project, and I was like, oh, ow, oh, ow, oh, ow. No, you don't want any of that. Just, in fact, I would do one at a time. One pin, one gusset, one area, sew one seam, sew the other, take pin out. If you're after a transportable sewing project that you can sew by hand and you're not wholly reliant on a sewing machine, this is definitely one for you. I did some on the bus. In fact, I was more successful at sewing it on the bus than I was filming it on the bus. I've done it in bed. I curled up in a chair in the studio and did it. I did it at the cutting table. You can literally take it anywhere. The last final bits of this glove, once you've put the gussets in position, was to sew a side seam and to hem it, both of which I did on the sewing machine, and I also overlocked that side seam. In actual fact, for some reason that side seam was 4 or 5 millimeters. It was definitely bigger than the 3 millimeters. I don't know why. I don't understand the logic of that. I also don't understand the sizing of this. If anyone has made this and can make sense of the sizing, I'd love to know, because as far as I can make out, there's a little notch in the side that says small, medium and large. The top one being small doesn't really make much difference to the overall size of the glove. And I was really worried because I have short, stubby fingers. And if these fit me, then someone with nice, long, slender fingers is not going to fit this pattern, because there's no changing up of the finger length or the finger width. It's just about the actual length of the glove. There's lengthened lines for the hemline where it goes around your wrist. So I don't understand how that changes the size of a glove. Maybe you do have to make a test version and then change the finger sizes and the lengths of the fingers accordingly. I have no idea. I'd love to know though. So what would I change? Would I even make these again? Yes is the answer. I would love to make them again, knowing what mistakes I've made this time round. I mean, quite frankly, I'm jolly lucky that I've ended up with such a good pair of wearable gloves, because I did make a few mistakes along the way, one of which was to completely go off piste and ignore the instructions. Never ignore instructions. They're there for a reason. As I said earlier, I would definitely cut that elastic shorter. I think it could do with cinching in a bit more around my front wrist. I would pay much more attention to those cut lines of the fingers. It's super important you cut them, or else, can you see, this one is definitely fatter than this one. I don't really mind. They're my handmade gloves and I can live with that, but it is slightly comical that the fingers are distinctly different sizes there. Not so much on this one, they're more even here. Also, I have a feeling I know why they didn't suggest cutting gloves on the bias. The pinky has twisted, and on this one too. And it's very tricky because the pinky only has a gusset on the inside. It doesn't have a gusset on the outside. So I have a feeling it's something to do with the bias being in the same direction all the way around. Maybe. I've heard that when you make bias dresses, if you have a front seam, it's good to have the bias going in opposite direction so it doesn't twist around the body. And I have a feeling that's what's happened here. Again, I can live with it. I don't really mind. And do you know what? I'm super happy, and it actually is quite chilly outside, so I might be wearing these home tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got this far, I really appreciate your support, and leave a comment if you have any further questions about these gloves, and I hope I've inspired you to make your own one day. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.